good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, you thirsty bunch of beer drinkers, whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. Thanks for pressing play and supporting a Canadian podcast. I'm Troy Burtch with Great Lakes, Ontario's local brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery based in Etobicoke who brings you this here Between Two Fermenters, the podcast where craft beer and conversation collide, straight from the tanks to your ears. Now, before we get to today's episode, I've been told by our content marketing manager that I have to read the following message, or else, she'll punch me. So I have to start the show this way. Here we go. What do you get when a brewery throws a beer fest for beer people? Obviously, it's the Brewed for You Fest. Imagine the chance to sample from over a dozen of your favorite independent breweries right in South Etobicoke. And it's on a long weekend to boot. That's fitting with the guest we have today. Happening Saturday, August 30th at Great Lakes Brewery. Expect awesome eats, killer live bands, and a fest filled to the brim with community vibes. Got the kids? No problem. The afternoon session is family friendly. Looking to dance? Our evening session is 19 plus. Head to greatlakesbeer.com for more information. Okay, I live to fight another day. So back to the show. Today's guest has nearly 2 decades of experience with one company, starting on the packaging line and moving his way through the brewery over his almost 20 years there. He's a fellow who works extremely hard behind the scenes and has experience in building a brand, leading creative teams, and bringing people together through community-driven events and projects, with beer smack dab in the center of it all. As the marketing director at Wellington Brewery, one of Canada's original craft breweries, Brad McInerney has helped shape the company's strategic vision over his time with Guelph's legacy brewery, led and participated in rebranding efforts, and even guided its entry into the non-alcoholic space. Along the way, Brad and colleagues have launched more than 40 products into new markets, created and built a successful and thriving taproom, organized countless events and festivals, and have cemented themselves as part of Guelph's DNA. Like PB&J, Guelph and Wellington, Brad and Wellington, they just go together. I wrote that part myself. Outside of Wellington, Brad plays a big role in shaping Guelph's beer culture as a lead organizer of Guelph Beer. One of their big projects, the Guelph Beer Bus, has welcomed thousands of craft beer fans to the city since it started, earned national media coverage, and was even named Ontario's Culinary Tourism Event of the Year in 2023, which was pretty cool for them. We're going to get into all that and more with Brad today, including the extraction of details of Wellington's 40th anniversary, the party they are planning to celebrate that huge milestone with, and learn more about this historic craft brewery and what it means to the town of Guelph. Brad is one of the most passionate and brand loyal people in our industry, so you're in for a treat today. So like me, grab a fresh one, crack it open, and let's get right at it. Hang tight. We'll be right back with Brad McInerney, Marketing Director with Wellington Brewery.
It's Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery. We believe in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. It's Great Lakes Brewery. Order online for free local home delivery. In the GTA, good times and amazing beer. That's GLB.
Hello there, Brad. Welcome to the show, Between Two Fermenters.
Hi, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for leaving the lovely town of Guelph today to chat in person. It's always great to have someone, their bum in the seat. How was the drive?
Oh, it's fine. West End's a lot better than East End, that's for sure.
Now, a lot of people, when you live in Guelph, they like to be insulated to the Guelph territory, but you broke rank and you came to Toronto. You gonna get in shit when you get home, or?
Been in Toronto more than I wanted to this summer, I'll tell you. So.
That's what everyone from Guelph always says. Oh, I had to come to Toronto. I got a beer for you there.
Yeah.
It is the Brewed for You Festival beer. It's a New England Pale Ale, 4.4%. I got to admit, it's my first time having it. We released it last week. But go ahead, crack it open.
Let's give it a try here.
And the Brewed for You Fest, you guys are coming to participate. You're one of the breweries that will be there on August 30th to pour some lovely Wellington beers.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
But I understand you're not going to be, which is okay.
I'm not going to make it.
You're a busy guy.
It's a long weekend. Yeah. We got our festival the next weekend.
That's
too.
right. Yeah, which we're going to talk about. We'll talk about it on the show. So, man, did I ever pump you up in that opening? Eh?
I know. I'm going to have to live up to this now.
But you know what? Very much deserved, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it all with you. Your start in beer with Wellington, the evolution of your roles, which is plural because we'll talk about that in a second as well, but the history of Wellington, the upcoming 40th anniversary bash. But like I often do, I'd like you to give the listeners a sense of who Brad is outside of beer. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I've been, like you said, I've been at Wellington for a few decades, but I grew up in Hamilton, went to University of Guelph, like a lot of people stuck around in Guelph. And that was very quickly after that. That's when I started my role in beer. But music has always been kind of a big part of my life. Like I started booking shows, punk shows and indie rock shows in Hamilton. TransUnion Hall was one of the first places I ever booked a show. And when I moved to Guelph, I was playing in bands and I started booking shows pretty regularly in Guelph. So that was kind of a big part of like my life over the last few decades has been booking music, and it kind of led to me doing a music series, a music festival that kind of ran parallel into my as well as my career in beer. So the two kind of go hand in hand, obviously, right? Like independent music and beer, they kind of fit together really well. So my work with Kazoo has been a big part of like where
What's
my
Kazoo?
Community. So Kazoo was a music series and festival that we organized, and it was ran for 16 years. So we ended it in 2022.
Okay.
But it was a not-for-profit organization that we hosted an annual festival, and then about 20 to 30 shows a year, so like bi-weekly music series. But that was a big part of who I am and where I come from and how I kind of went into beer in a way.
Now, no offense, you don't look like a punk rock guy. You look like you'd be a marketer.
Well, the elder punks, you know how it is these days. But the two kind of fit together in a good way.
And so you went to school in Guelph and you stayed in Guelph. You got the job. If you weren't doing the beer thing, what would you be doing? Would you be doing music for a career?
Yeah, probably something. And there were a few moments in the last decade or two where it almost went that direction and working in not-for-profit music or the music industry generally.
Yeah. So Wellington hits the big 4-0 this year, the oldest independent craft brewery in operation here in Ontario and one of the oldest in Canada, as I mentioned. But before we go way back to 1985, I'd like to fast forward from there to the year 2006, the year you joined the brewery, correct?
Yep.
And what was your first job at Wellington?
Yeah, I actually didn't even interview for this job, which is crazy when you think about it in retrospect. I started on the Wellington Brewery bottling line, which even sounds crazy to say bottling in this world right now. But the Wellington, like, you didn't do an interview. It was like a temp agency for musicians, basically. So Molly, my friend Kirsten, who I was playing in a band with, her mom was the one who was managing our packaging line in quotes. And we had just basically a rotating cast of musicians who could show up, who had time. Basically, we needed this many hours filled this week. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I showed up and I was like expecting that I was going to have to do a job interview. They were like, no, packaging line's over there. Here's how you put the beer in the box. You put glue it shut, put it on the pallet, wrap it, and that's it.
And how much did you get paid back then?
God, I have no idea thinking back, but I can tell you it wasn't much.
And did you get beer like at the end of the shift?
Well, that was I think it was the first week I was there. We were discontinuing our Beehive, like a honey lager that we were doing. And we got a bunch back from a TBS warehouse and they go, oh, there's a skid of Old Code over there. Do you guys want to take some extra? Like, you can take like 10 cases if you want. And I was like, what?
And so that's it. You're sold. I'm going to be a Wellington employee for the rest of my life.
That was it.
So you're saying what led you to beer was just you need to fill hours to make some money to to be a musician.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when it comes down to it, so many people got into beer because they wanted to work in the beer industry. I kind of just showed up. That's the honest to God truth about it.
You haven't left though.
Yeah. I mean, I do love the industry, but at the time, and I mean, and like Troy, how long have you been in beer?
In beer? Oh,
yeah.
Geez. I've been with Grey Lakes 13 years, but I've been in beer probably 15, 17 years.
Right. So you
not 20 years.
Okay, but pretty close. You remember in the early days, craft beer wasn't necessarily like a cool job then. Like, we didn't even say craft back then, right? So it was like you're working
micro brewery.
Exactly. So it's not, it wasn't one of those things where I think people will be seeking out working at a local brewery. It's a cool job, but I don't know if it was like had the cachet that it would have, say, 5 or 10 years after that.
Well, that's a good, fair point. I was trying at that time to elevate the craft scene. That's what I was doing. I was writing and, blogging and doing beer dinners and traveling the country trying to elevate people's experience with. This is not your generic lawnmower beer. This has got flavor. This is made with passion by people who really care, with real ingredients and small communities that are trying to pump up, their neighbors. And so I was on the other aspect of that going, I don't want to work for a brewery. I want to keep doing this. But then when I did, then I haven't left.
Well, those early days were, like when I started, I think the OCB was less than 30 members. I remember we had a poster in the store and they had all the bottle caps with all the different breweries. Like that was just such early days.
Like 2001 where they started that. And it's funny you mentioned that poster because Mike Lackey, our brewing operations manager, and myself, we just went to visit Old Credit Brewery in Port Credit. They've had some changes there and they have a new GM, Chris Conway, who's formerly of Folly and Landwash out of Newfoundland. So we went by to see, and as you're walking up the stairs to their new tap room, they still have the craft beer trail. I don't know if they called it the ale trail back then, but anyway, it's from 2006. So the year you started, and that poster's still up. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And you guys have the Iron Duke as your,
Yep. The Duke on the bottle cap.
Yeah. So we were looking at all the different bottle caps and we're like, oh, that brewery's gone. That brewery's gone. Oh, this brewery's rebranded. This brewery's no longer that name. It's this name. And so it was very interesting to see those, but back then, a job at a craft brewery was, I guess a little punk rock, a little, you didn't know what you might want to do. You wanted to get into brewing, so you'd take any job. And again, like 20 years later, here you are, you're the marketing director, and understand you're managing sales now too, the sales team. So what a journey from packaging line I get some free expired, would you say Beehive beer to running the show over there. So tell me about your journey through the years.
Yeah, it's been a wild journey.
Just your journey, not the brewery's journey.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like, I mean, it was pretty, within a year or two of being on the packaging line, they were like, oh, do you want to work in the bar? Within that, it was, do you want to manage the bar? Then it was like, oh, we need marketing and events. Do you want to go do the festivals? And pretty quickly after that, it was, okay, you're a good marketer. Mm-hmm. You know what you're doing here. So, marketing, I think I took over marketing around 2010, 2011. So the journey from there was, stepping into like taking on more and more. So it was marketing in the retail store, doing some brands. Like we didn't start doing small batch beers until I think 2010 was the first one-off beer that we ever did. There was a bit more of a rigid structure to how we approached things back then. But yeah, my journey was always like every time they saw, and, this is a credit to the people, at the top at Wellington, who've been there over the years, that they identify talent and kind of help them elevate and grow in their role. So every time I felt like I was hitting a plateau, there was always a new challenge ahead of me. And that's been really important in helping drive me forward in the different roles I've had there. So there've been a few people who've had similar journeys as me in the Wellington.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels that our breweries share, that we have a long history of retaining staff and good people and moving them around and holding key positions within the brewery. But tell me about what your role looks like today. What's your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month? Because going back to 2006 and your journey through 2006 to 2010 when you started doing the marketing, everyone wears different hats in craft beer. Back then was more so. Now that you have, a defined job title and everything, what does your day-to-day look like? Are you still wearing too many hats?
I think it's a little bit of wearing too many hats, but in a good way, right? Yeah. Like that, well, that you could consider that a challenging thing to manage so many different things. The day-to-day for me that's one of the things that drives me in a career like that, is that I get to, some days I'm really on the marketing side. Some days lately I've been really on the sales side. And that's been a learning experience for me because I was really more in like the brand management, marketing management, coordinating seasonal beers, doing key account management, like say LCBO relations, that kind of thing. But it's been a really unique experience to get to learn on the sales side. And I think that's part of being challenged to like take on new roles as you grow in your professional career, like just trying on new things and being like, okay, well, we need somebody in sales right now. Can we try this out? It is challenging because it is a lot of different things moving, but we've got a great team. So that's been one of the key parts of why I've been able to kind of focus a bit more in other areas. Was we just happen to have an incredible marketing team right now that we built over the years. So
how many people are on your marketing team right now?
So 3 people, 4 people, including me. Yeah. So small team, but it's a really talented group of people. So
I want to give them a shout out because they're doing some pretty amazing work these days.
They sure are. They sure are. Yeah. Gord, Jackie, and Kaylee, they're all incredible, doing an incredible job. So.
What's been the biggest learning curve for you going from packaging line to running the retail store, tap room, to events, marketing, brand manager, pitching the LCBO on we were just talking about that off the air, that you had your yearly LCBO meeting, and then now into sales. So what's been the biggest learning curve over those 19 and a half years?
It's been, I mean, there've been a lot of learning curves, that's for sure. There've been a lot of times where you kind of wonder if you're in over your head. And I think everybody feels that in any job really. Right. But for me, it's always been looking at it and trying to zoom out, see the big picture and be like, there have been moments where you hit a critical point where you're running lean as your team and things are overwhelming and, you're like, how are we going to get through the next month? And then you step back for a second and you do that thing that everybody, I think, probably has to do at some point in the beer industry and say, wait a second, we're kind of selling beer here. So we just got to just chill for a bit, relax, keep the big picture in mind, know that we're doing the right thing and staying true to where we wanted to be as a brand and as a company. So
no one's dying on an operating table at your hands.
Exactly. Exactly. It feels like that sometimes, but.
So what would you say the learning curve would be? What would you, if you had to drill down on what the biggest thing would be?
The biggest learning curve, like the biggest, like in terms of how you
went from your 19 and a half years.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me was like, I had to always, the marketing side, I'm not a trained marketer. So I kind of learned it intuitively in my work in like promoting shows. It's obvious you're building community. So for me, it was always just, learning the technical side was easy. The biggest learning curve, I think for me ultimately is people management. And I think that's something that everybody has to learn with time. And I think I've gotten better with it, but it is every single day is a new learning experience in terms of like, and learning how to just sort of like, take the big picture project and find where you can delegate things to people and then just focus on keeping things on track, because that is and I feel like that's a learning curve that nobody masters. They're always going to be doing that, if that makes sense.
Delegate and elevate.
It's a real thing.
What keeps you going then? What motivates you in your role?
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
would it be just that what you just said?
Yeah, I love the industry and it's the challenges constantly. Like this past year and a half, I think to some degree maybe I thrive in chaos, and I don't know if anybody else feels that way in this industry these days. But it's been a tumultuous few years coming out of the pandemic in terms of industry changes, market expansions, just disruptions constantly. And instead of feeling beat down by that and sort of overwhelmed, I feel like maybe I just kind of lean into that because it's a problem to solve and it's a new challenge.
You don't have a white flag in your desk.
Not yet. No.
Yeah. Distribution that's the biggest shakeup that just happened in the industry in the last month. Thankfully a good change with the August 1st taxation. But everything else, tariffs and inflation, and we still say COVID because we still haven't rebounded from COVID. Bars and restaurants haven't rebounded from that. And so like every single day, every single week, it's always like, what's next? What shoe is gonna fall next?
I know. I was honestly feeling the last few months, I was like, it kind of feels a little bit like COVID right now. There's the amount of like curveballs coming at you right now.
We do a little bit similar. We have a little bit of a similar role. I do a lot of the GR stuff. You're involved in that as well?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And it seems like I like to think that I'm pretty in tune with what's happening out there, and it's getting harder and harder to keep track of, well, is that federal or provincial? Is the city involved in something now? Okay, now we're reverting back to this. So now can deposits, blah, blah, blah. How do you keep your head above water?
I think it's hard, honestly.
Yeah.
I've had that moment a few times where somebody asked me a question about, policy or change with the LCBO or C-stores. And I start explaining it and I'm second guessing myself in my head because I'm like, did that change again last month? Because we're just in this constant wave of change. And they say, in context, like the changes to the MFA breaking up and the changes to the regulatory environment, it truly is a once in a lifetime change to the industry, and it's hard to wrap your head around. There's a lot of opportunity there. And I think that's how we're trying to look at it. And I think that's the way that you should sort of look at it, but it is a disruption in a big way.
Oh, it's a massive disruption. Massive. Yeah. And now with the beer stores closing left, right, and center these days, and that's a lot of breweries are losing sales to that, and they're not gaining them by SC store.
But. Yeah. I mean, we've been selling at the beer store for over 30 years. It's an important channel for us, despite it being owned, by the big players. It's still important to the business, right? So seeing that kind of change and go away to some degree, it's challenging.
Yeah, 100%. So it's 1985 now. Now we're going to rewind.
Time traveling.
Brick Brewery, which changed to Waterloo Brewing, which is now Carlsberg. They opened in Waterloo. They were the first, or 1984. Sorry, 1984. Here in Toronto, Upper Canada opens in 1985. And then over in Guelph, a British-inspired cask-loving brewery called Wellington starts up. So walk me through, romanticize me with the origin story of your employee.
Yeah. So, I mean, Phil Gosling was the founder of Wellington Brewery. So he's actually still alive. He's 95 or 96 years old now. But he came over to...
Sorry to interrupt. Did you guys not just have him to the brewery recently for something?
He was at the brewery, yeah. He launched a little book about his journey and his experiences in his life. So we had him at the brewery for a little, chat about it and that kind of thing.
And do you carry that book at the brewery?
Yeah, we sell it at the brewery. So and he's had an interesting life, but he was really into British style cask ales, and it was, he wanted to basically open a brewery where he could have those kind of beers. He saw what was happening in England. He's like, these beers are classic. They're, super traditional. And he didn't see that here. So he said, you know what? I'm going to open my own brewery. And, to this day, it's the same location, the same building that we're in that he opened in 1985. When we opened, we were actually supposed to open a little bit earlier than we were. Our brew house was coming over from the UK, and it was on the ship that was going to pick it up was diverted for the Air India disaster. So we were actually delayed. I don't know exactly how long, but it was a little bit to put us back in that, how early we were. But realistically, it's, 85, 87 when you guys opened. It's all ancient history in a lot of ways. But it's cool to see that, Phil's original vision still to this day. Some of the beers that we brewed, on day one are still in our brand lineup to this day, which is pretty unique, I think.
And what are those?
Yeah, like Arkle Best Bitter, County, Brown Ale, and Special Pale Ale. Or Iron Duke.
Iron Duke, I was going to say, yeah. So being a marketer and being there for almost 20 years, you are probably the best person to tell the story of Wellington. So he opens the doors in 85. Walk through the next 10 years or so. What is it like there? How's the community embraced it? Tell me everything you can about that time period.
Yeah, I mean, when they opened, and you got to remember, I would have been 2 years old when they opened, so I mean, I wasn't there. But there was, when they opened, there was support, there was demand for locally brewed Ontario craft beer. We didn't call it craft then, but there was demand for it, and it was mostly on a pub level. So I think when they opened, they were servicing maybe, I think about 40 pubs across Ontario. So it was a decent amount of volume. Most of it was cask ale. Yep. Now, the challenge with cask ale, it's hard to distribute. It's a live product. It's unfiltered. You're distributing it in trucks. It's a very, very big challenge.
And you need people that understand how to store it and serve it.
Exactly.
On the other end, too.
Exactly. And I think that that's something that, you take it for granted in the UK when people have the infrastructure to serve and, deal with real ale, cask ale. We didn't have that here. Yeah. So people had to really, you're out selling it, but you're teaching them about how to serve it. They did switch to doing packaged product pretty quickly after that. They had some failed experiments. The beer cube back in the day. This is the one, I think we did something on social media over the pandemic about it, where they were selling bag and box cask ale.
Hey, you and Granite started doing it again.
Yeah. It was fun though. It was a good pandemic project, But we were selling those into beer stores, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So imagine you're sending a truck, it's 30 degrees outside, it's August, and you're sending a truck over to the beer stores to drop these things off, and you got a bladder inside of a box of cask ale.
Yeah.
That is not a great situation.
No.
So yeah, they experimented with some of that stuff, and there was gradual growth. Like there was definitely a market there. So the brewery continued to expand. We acquired some tanks from different breweries as they closed down, gradually kind of grew into the 90s and, started distributing at the beer store in a more serious way. A lot of the history of our brewery has been built on the like bars and restaurants. That's a unique journey for a lot of breweries. And you guys are probably similar in that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Breweries that have been around a long time, you build it that way. And I think that that's been really, really important to the history of our brewery. It wasn't just a retail play. It was building it at the pub level and then bringing that success into packaged product. So yeah, into the 90s, we started doing Imperial Stout, or Russian Imperial Stout, no longer Russian, in the 91, I think, 92. So, beers like that, an 8% Imperial Stout, it just wasn't something people were doing. Yeah.
Unheard of then.
Like there were Bocks, there were some higher alcohol.
Upper Canada was doing a whole bunch of different things here in Toronto, but they had the legacy of doing bad beer. Like it wasn't the best quality.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, there was a lot of crossover between those early days, I think, between Upper Canada, Wellington, and other places like that. Amsterdam, the early days. Yep. And into the 90s, I think in 95, we started doing like a full bottling line running and, more standard 6-packs because we experimented with a bunch of, I'm going to say it, just really dumb packaging formats, like 1 liter, 2 liter PET bottles.
Yeah, well, everyone was doing PET bottles, and I think if my memory serves me correct from, the history books, Great Lakes, Wellington, Creemore, Connors. We're all buying in bulk together, like a little buying group. And they would buy the 1 liter green PET bottles. And then they would come to the brewery and everyone had the same bottle going out. Like, we've seen you guys have your archives. You have some of those bottles. We have some of those bottles.
Just crazy to see, honestly, some of the ideas about how to package beer back then. You just scratch your head and you go, okay.
Let's fill it straight from the tank into this and hope.
I would hate to see what the labs would look like on that stuff,
So we get to about 2005, just before you arrived, and and then you walk us through the next 10 years.
Yeah. So just before that, 98, this is going to give you guys the whole history.
Yeah, dude, that's what we're here for.
98, we opened our tap room. So we expanded the facility a little bit on the front. And then 2000, it changed ownership. So Phil Gosling sold the brewery to Mike Stirrup and Doug Dawkins. And they kind of came in with a bunch of different ideas. That's when we really started to hit the Toronto market really hard with like taps. So we went really hard on bars and restaurants for about 5 years. Then that's where the Triowellion and the Boot kind of started. It started as kind of a marketing campaign for our on-premise. So it was like the Boot tap handle, the Triowellion tied to it. And that just kind of grew and grew from there. But 2000, so I start in 2006. We're still doing bottles. It's a pretty chaotic time. And like I said, like earlier, there's not really a conception of craft beer that way. It's so different. It's microbrewery. There's such a small handful. And that was, I think, just like that starting tipping point where the breweries, you're seeing stuff in the States starting to happen. There were people doing more adventurous beers. And that was, I think, just like almost a few years after that when I started really the kickoff point for craft beer really going into its major growth phase.
Yeah, we say here in Ontario it's around the 2010, 11, 12 mark is when things really went up. And it was... You look at the America and you're like, maybe it was 10 years behind. That was the old line that we all used to say that we're 10 years behind, but I think we've caught up 100% now. But back then it was like, okay, look at what Sierra Nevada is doing. Oh, this new brewery called Dogfish Head, look what they're doing. And so a lot of breweries like Great Lakes tried to emulate that here in Ontario because no one was really doing big, bold American style beers. Now you guys were still doing the British style up until... You started experimenting. You said the first beer that was 2010. You said, I think.
Yeah, 2010. It was that was when we did our big 25th kind of anniversary. So it was a moment where I think we were starting to look ahead. Like, what does the future look like? And I mean, I think Wellington was always a bit more conservative in the approach to brands. It was very much like these succeed. We don't know. Is IPAs a trend?
Yeah.
I remember that conversation. Honestly, it was one of the first meetings I got invited to. It was like 2010, 2011. And I remember then going, well, I don't think this bitter IPA thing is going to fly. And, you think about if somebody, and I'm in the corner going, oh, I don't think I think it's here. But, you think about it and it's like, Could we have made a different decision then? Probably. But it's been an interesting journey in terms of like seeing how that's evolved. After we did the 25th anniversary, that was really like the kicking off point for rebranding our brewery. Like 2011, 2012, we got rid of the Duke of Wellington, that like stodgy kind of British thing, and really moved to like the boot, which we thought was really fun, playful. And it just spoke to like the marketing campaign became the brand, which I think is really interesting too.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because when you said try a Welly on, and I remember that is a great line to try to introduce people to your beer. But where'd the Welly come from? Where'd the boot come from?
Well, it's the Wellington boot, right? That's the thing, right? So we're Wellington Brewery. It's the Wellington boot. It makes a lot of sense that way, but you have to explain it to everybody.
I don't think the Iron Duke or the generals would be wearing rubber boots.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was kind of just shake it up a little bit. I think that era of like, old stodgy kind of British kind of beer had to go, and it was time for a more contemporary kind of thing. And, it really did, we did see sales kind of start to take off after that point, because it was a modern thing. We were starting to packaging. We were early into cans actually too. We were 2007 into cans, I think.
Yeah, there was, if I can give a little history here, it was Hockley Valley was the first that we think in around the 2005-06 mark, doing their Hockley Dark.
Yeah, I remember that.
That everyone loved that beer back then. And then Flying Monkeys got into it with, what was it called? The Robert Simpson.
Right.
It was Confederation Ale.
Yep, I remember
Great
that.
Lakes came out with Devil's Pale Ale. And then that's where kind of my history ends, where everyone else then, it started to go, and the LCBO was like, there's something to do with these cans, and then everyone started moving to cans around 2008, 2009.
I'll tell you, we didn't like it. We had a cask line, and it was brutal. Oh, I luckily didn't have to work it much, but that thing was awful.
Well, was it then 3 head or 5 head?
I think
probably a 3 or 5.
I think it was a 3.
Yeah,
and
so nice and slow.
Like I remember even bigger breweries contracting their packaging at our place because they couldn't get their canning lines up.
Yeah, you guys were just musicians. You guys would work 20 hours a day. So you're doing like a 3 head filler. You're probably doing like 15 cans a minute.
It was brutal. It was brutal.
So before Wellington opened in 1985, there wasn't a brewery, if I understand correctly, in Guelph for 50 years. So a lot of people think of Sleeman and they think, they were probably one of the first, but you guys beat Sleeman by 3 years. Tell me what it meant then to be the first brewery after Prohibition and post-Prohibition to open up, what it means now, and what it's like to be the flag bearer for craft beer in Guelph.
Yeah, I think it's really meaningful. It's always meant something to me because we kind of carry I kind of feel like and to some degree we carry the weight of that brand, of that like kind of tradition behind you all the time, And I think that's something we've always tried to do with the Wellington brand is not, there were moments where we could have just said, let's get rid of all the traditional stuff and just move on. And I think that, there's an integrity, there's an honesty, there's like there's something about being rooted in where it comes from that is honest. And I think customers kind of see that a little bit. So we've kind of, always really tried to maintain that as a through line with our brand. But yeah, being the oldest in Guelph, I mean, I don't know how many people actually know that, and that's a hard thing to message.
And that's what I'm trying to say, that
without denigrating, because you don't want to say like, oh, Sleeman is, when they're not, but that people don't, their perception of the Sleeman brand or, Moosehead or other things that have been, is that they've been around for, centuries. Yeah. So you just kind of...
Sleeman's played that really well with his grandfather was
They did.
The rum runner or the beer baron or whatever. But,
But the recipe book,
the recipe book. Have you seen the recipe book?
No, actually, I didn't know I did in the tap room. They have they have a little archive upstairs in their tap room. It's really cool.
So you said how important it is to you. How important is it to Guelph?
I think it's really important to Guelph. I mean, I think that people have recognized Wellington has been tied into the like DNA of Guelph. Like we are, it would be almost impossible to have an event, it feels like, and not be serving beer and not have our beer there. It feels like sometimes. Like, and there are a few, but, we've really focused on like owning our backyard, being part of everything, and just making sure we don't lose sight of that. Like it's so easy to say, well, we're going to be a province-wide brand, but you kind of start to like lose that connection to where you came from. And I think that if you lose what's at the heart of it, you can kind of really risk what you're doing, growing too fast or just missing that center.
Take care of your backyard first.
Exactly.
With no disrespect to like the rural cities and fixed gears of the world, but when people think of Guelph beer, they think of Wellington. And how does that sound when you hear that? Because I know you'll be humble and, we're all friends. But when people think of Guelph, they think of Wellington. How does that make you feel? How does it make the team feel?
I think it's great. And I hope they think of everybody though. I do, honestly.
See, I knew you were going to go that way. You're very humble.
No, we all work together but it is great to know.
I'll be selfish. If someone says they think of Etobicoke and they think of beer, I want them to think of Great Lakes. I want them others after, but
Yeah, no, it means a lot. And I think that's, there's a lot of people who contributed to that. You really worked hard to keep that legacy of Wellington in Guelph. And it's funny because people think Wellington, they go, well, where are you guys from? And they think like Wellington, Prince Edward County or something. Yeah. And you're like, no.
Yeah.
This is, they used to name them not after cities, but after whole regions because there weren't that many.
Great Lakes.
Oh, exactly.
We wanted to be the brewery that had five different breweries around the Great Lakes back then. So now now it's challenging. It's like if you could start all over with what we have already built, would you change the name? And it's it's one of those things where like maybe people think we're Great Lakes Cleveland or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, honestly, like there have been so many times where people have asked me that too, and it's like, how do you do that? Like it's the same thing with like
you can't. No,
you can't.
No.
You don't ever want to be the person who says, and you don't ever want to be the person who cancels somebody's favorite beer. I'm sure you've been through that before.
We've been through it many times. Looking at the beer right in front of you, we have a Golden Horseshoe retro can. It's a 25th anniversary since the Great Lakes retail store opened to the public.
That's awesome.
Incorporated and opened in 1987. Didn't have a retail store until the year 2000. So we honored that 25th anniversary by doing a retro label. That beer itself has gone through so many rebrands over the years. And when we did premium lager, people are like, oh, this isn't the same beer. It's not the same beer. Well, it's the exact same beer. We've tweaked it over the years and made it much better. But we killed Red Leaf Lager years ago.
Right, I remember that one.
Vienna Lager, and people were up in arms. And,
I love this. I love the horseshoe beer glass.
Yeah.
That is,
it's pretty good. That's the original label from the year 2002 or something like that. But we talked about cask, and you talked about transporting it and the education and the educational component and everything that went with it. You guys have revived cask in Ontario. There's not too many breweries still doing it. You guys do. We do. Granite does. Out in Oshawa, County Durham or Durham, say what? I can't remember what their name is now. But you guys also brought back the Welly Cask Fest.
Yeah.
Ralph from Volo, he still does the cask days. So walk me through, what is Cask Fest and why are you guys still pushing cask beer?
I mean, I think cask is about where we came from, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's something unique about beer. And if you ever, if you've ever had a properly served cask beer, it is a different experience. There's going to be people who just are not cask beer drinkers. There's people in the industry who will trash on cask beer all the time. But, I think that what it is and where it fits into the beer history is really important. But it's also just an enjoyable thing. Like we've had a cask on at the Woolly for now 35 years since they opened. And they still serve Arkle Best Bitter on cask the same way they have since the day they opened. And there's a reason for it, right? Like it's a beer when you're in a pub like that and you're enjoying that kind of a pint, it really is a different beer experience, if that makes sense. Like it's just such the first time I think the first time I ever had cask, I was definitely confused. I was like, why is it so warm? What's going on here? And then you kind of get it. At some point it just clicks for you. And
how come I've drank 3 of these faster than
exactly. But yeah, like when we did our 30th anniversary, we'd always done a a realist day, which was a customer appreciation day. And we done a boot chuck thing, which was a customer appreciation for our on-premise
the realist day. I remember that. Yeah.
So it was always the same weekend. Saturday you had the cask beer enthusiasts at the brewery. And then Sunday you had a big piss up at the brewery for all the bar and restaurant staff. So when we hit our 25th anniversary, by the time we kept doing that, by the time we hit our 30th anniversary, we decided let's take both of these events, combine them into one, make it our 30 festival. And it was a cask beer focused traditional sort of thing. And that became the model for Welly Cask Fest that came after that. So it was almost that's why we called this one 40 this time around, is because 30 was the milestone. And then 10 years we did this cask festival Now we're doing 40, and we're still doing cask, but it is a little bit, we're going to serve some draft and that kind of thing. And then we don't know what comes next, but there's going to be a new iteration of our festival next year. So that'll continue through.
Well, we're going to talk about the 40th party and what comes next, actually. So start thinking on that while I ask you the next couple questions. But so marketing director and sales, it's a tough one for you. A question I get asked all the time. We're a 37-year-old, you're a 40-year-old brewery. In today's market, how do you balance that tradition with innovation? Because you've kind of straddled it in your answers today. How do you do it?
I mean, it's the toughest thing.
Yeah.
It really is the toughest question because, like I said earlier, no one's ever going to be a fan of you getting rid of their favorite beer.
Like tomorrow, if you guys killed Arco.
Yeah. Exactly. Like there would be literal, like some of our core customers would literally riot.
But literally with pitchforks because it's Guelph, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so
exactly.
they'd come in off the combines.
But yeah, like it's, that line between where you came from, your traditional stuff and your innovation, they don't always fit together perfectly well. People would say, well, now Wellington's doing a hazy New England IPA or they're doing a sour. That's a tough line to walk with traditional British beers. I do believe you can do both well if you do it right, but it creates a messaging challenge to really say, okay, we're doing this really great lager, we're doing this really great IPA, but we're also still sticking with the traditional British stuff. It's so hard. It's been the challenge of the last few decades, honestly. That has been the number one thing. And I think we've done an okay job at it. I think you guys also have the same challenge to some degree. And I think that, you kind of try to do both in a way that seems like that represents your brand honestly. I think that's the thing. That honesty comes through in a brand.
Where's the biggest pushback on innovation? Is it from internal thinking, oh, we shouldn't stray too far away? Like you said, in the 90s, it was like in early 2000s, like, oh, we shouldn't do this IPA. It's just a trend. But who's thinking that we can't get rid of the past, but we can't go too far into the future either?
I think there's a safety element, for and this is, for the people who own the brewery at times, they've been like, hey, listen, this is what works. These new ideas might be a trend. It might not work. And I think the ownership of Wellington over the years has been very receptive to evolving with the industry, but it has been challenging to walk that line and find a balance.
Keep these traditional brands pumping.
Yeah.
And if they keep pumping, it'll allow us to play on this side. And that was kind of what we did at Great Lakes is let's keep the lager just pumping. Let's keep Octopus pumping. Let's Canuck pumping. That'll allow us to do all these other things on the side.
Exactly. So, it's a real challenging one. Yeah. Like I said, I think people see honesty, and I think that they see integrity in a way that customers register it in a way that is not always apparent. I think it's a, sort of a long game in its own respect.
And that's what the tap room's for too. Try these beers. You can still have this, but try these new things, and you never know. This might be your new 10-year beer that you're going to stick to, and it's going to be the new traditional beer at Wellington.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beer's cyclical. There were moments where I've been to trendy U.S. breweries, and they go, what's the new thing? I'm talking to a bartender, and they go, oh, we have an English bitter, and it's, and they start explaining to me what an English bitter is. I'm like, I can stop you there.
I'll take it.
Yeah, but it's wild. There are trends, and I think that things kind of come in and come back, and I think the days of beer trends are kind of done to some degree because, it's become this monolith of hazy IPAs and specialty lagers, and it's hard to have an identifiable trend, I think. But I do think that things kind of come back circularly because drinking beer is an experience where, you're bringing people together and you're enjoying a pint in a way. And there's something comforting about beer that I think that those styles really speak to. Yeah.
The old British Pale Ale, when I say old, I don't mean it like that, but the British Pale Ale, the American Pale Ale, those things made breweries, and now it's please buy my pale ale.
Well, they're timeless for a reason, right?
So you have a strong reputation for being community focused. You've mentioned a bunch of things, but what initiatives and partnerships are you most proud of in the community of Guelph?
Yeah, we've really been lucky to take part in a lot of different stuff. Queen of Craft has been a huge one for us over the past decade. We're still doing it. It's changed and evolved over the years, but we did a beer in the LCBO this spring that I think will raise alone probably $6,000 or $7,000. So I think that total for Queen of Craft is over $100,000 donated to Guelph Wellington Women in Crisis. So that's a cause that's really vital, important to us. So we've done our Pride beer, Sunshine Pride beer now for I think like 6 years, which has been a really great partnership with our regional Pride organizations. We're doing a funny one right now. With the second year we've done it with our upside is now Pupside for the month.
Yeah, I've seen
Dog
that.
Days of Summer. It's so we do Pupside. It's 50 cents to Tango's Lead Dog Rescue, and we work with them pretty closely. So just kind of doing those things. We support so many charities and initiatives as a lot of breweries do.
Well, that's kind of a lead-in question because I wanted to say you guys seems that every time I turn around, you guys are doing something charity-based with the community, that you have a special beer or you're doing this and a certain dollar value goes to this community organization. And how do you keep up with that?
Yeah, I think it's planning because it is a marketing investment to some degree, but it's also about giving back to the community. Like the community is where, that support comes for our brewery, and we want to be able to make sure we're giving that back to the community. So it's been a central part of our brand. Like we decided early that was one of our brand pillars and that's where we were going to be. Yeah. And I think that we've just stuck to that. There've been times like during the pandemic, after the pandemic, where things were crunched and it was hard to say, okay, money's tight. Are we still doing this charity beer? And usually the answer is, yeah, we got to do this because there's a consistency and there's customers expect this. And there's a reason why, what is our brand without this? Yeah.
And from the cause marketing side of things, it's like, if you do this, people are going to come in and buy the beer and hopefully buy some other brands. And
it's reaching new communities. Yeah. That's what it is,
Let's get into 40 years now, if you don't mind. Oh, crack that open.
No, I want to crack this one.
Yeah. You really like that label, don't you?
I love it. I'm a sucker for old beer labels. We're actually doing a craft classic 6-pack in the LCBO.
Oh, nice.
3 retro labels, so like SPA, Arkle, and County have retro labels, and then 3 archival recipes that we kind of revisited. It's a bit of a risk because it's not it's not an IPA mixer, it's not a whatever, but it's going to be.
When's that go live?
It goes live start of November, so
very good. Okay.
P9. Yeah.
No one out there listening.
Sorry. Start of November.
Well, there are a bunch of industry people, but start of November, dear listener out there. Yeah. Okay, so 40 years, not you. We get that. 40 years for Wellington. I like to, consider myself an amateur beer historian, so I love this stuff. I love the history of Wellington and what you guys are all about. So what is happening for the 40th anniversary?
Yeah, so we're hosting a big festival at the brewery. Like we've done these festivals. We took last year off of doing an annual festival just to build up for this year. So this is like the big one for us. But a 2-day celebration, 3 sessions, some live music, some food trucks, some bunch of different games, the Beer Olympics, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of great beers, some great collabs, some cask beer. Some guest beers. We're going to get one from you guys.
Yeah, we got Citradiction XPA, but with a twist.
Whole leaf hops. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Love it. Yeah, I'm excited for it. So, we're kind of scaling up a little bit on building on the festival. We're doing a bigger stage for it, so a bit bigger of a sound system, and just kind of, trying to celebrate a big milestone like this. Like, because there's a lot of people who've been, I meet people all the time who've been with our, fans of our brewery for, decades now, 3 decades. Yeah. And they're,
some of them probably since day one.
Yeah. And it's wild. So, we want to do something that really brings everybody out to really just celebrate in a really, big way.
So now this is, I'm going to put words in your mouth maybe, but this is a celebration of what Wellington is and what they stand for, you stand for, but it's also a celebration of the industry and for Guelph. So for the industry, you guys are the oldest independent craft brewery in Ontario.
Yeah.
In Canada, I think you're third.
It's pretty close. I know. It's one of those things where we always say one of Canada's original independent craft breweries because it's so murky about that kind of stuff.
Spinnakers has got you beat for sure.
Yep.
And then there's Big Rock.
Yep.
And so it's, where do you fit in on that? Anyway, but that's something like a badge of honor that you guys wear. But this 40th anniversary from an industry perspective, is this why you're inviting a bunch of other breweries?
Yeah, I think the story of Wellington Brewery is the story of the whole industry. Mm-hmm. So we tend to be a very welcoming, want to work with our friends in the industry. So, we're trying to include everybody in it and just say like, this is, the change and the push for craft beer, independent craft beer is something that, it's been an ongoing movement. And I think that like bringing everybody together to celebrate that milestone, because you think about it, craft beers hasn't been around that long in Canada. Like that's not that long. 40 years is the blink of an eye, really.
Yeah. We've done a collaboration beer with a brewery out of Germany, friends of ours, Rittmeyer, 600-year-old brewery.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they're like, yeah, we're one of the younger ones in our area. And we're like, oh, okay. We've got 36 years. And, so what does it mean for Guelph? What does it mean for Guelph, this big festival?
Yeah, I think the city really gets behind us in a big way, and that's like I said earlier, that's something we don't take for granted. Like we really appreciate all the people who are with us and have been along for the journey. So that's making sure that we're just really engaged with people and that we're opening up this opportunity for everybody to get together and just crack a few beers and enjoy it.
And is the Green Party leader coming, Mike Schreiner? Because he is a big beer guy.
He is. He's been a huge supporter of our lobby group. And I think we're doing a photo op with some of our political partners to crack off the festival, like a cask tapping. Yeah. Mike might not be there because he's on a canoe trip, which is,
well,
so he might make it.
Right to someone from Guelph for sure.
Yeah.
No, he's a big Octopus Wants to Fight supporter.
Yeah.
And he's been a great friend to a bunch of breweries. And you guys are lucky
for us.
Lucky to have him as your MP or MPP. Sorry.
Yeah.
Over on Instagram, you guys, and you had asked me to do this, which I was very privileged to do, and I was honored to do it. But the brewery is sharing voices from others within the industry. Walk me through some of those and give us some quick stories, some memorable comments from those.
Yeah. We've been doing this 40 for 40 kind of story series. We're hoping to get to 40. It's going to be a challenge to get to 40, but not because there's not enough stories, but just compiling them all. Yeah. But, we're trying to get people, we've had so many people over the years who've been a part of this journey. So we're kind of trying to say, go back to people who've been, historically involved, people in the industry, brewery and pub owners, former employees, just people who've been along for the journey and saying like, tell us your story, because the story of a brand, a story of a company is the story of the people who were there at certain journeys. So, Wellington's a really unique thing because we've had so many people who have been in this area who move on from Wellington to go on to either start their own breweries, become head brewers at other locations. Mm-hmm. So, like the list of it in our region, it's almost like some of the biggest breweries in our region are people who, really got their start at Wellington, right? David Alora, Kevin at Block 3, Marvin at Newstat, like people who've been with us for a very, very long time, and hearing their stories, it really, you did one, like there've been a lot of different people, but hearing people's stories have been really, there's things where I forget, and mm-hmm. I was there with them along with that, and a lot of people just say like, hey, I kind of feel like we just, we kind of grew up together in a weird way. Like it was like this moment where, when craft beer is skyrocketing and the market is going crazy, and that excitement in like 2010, 2012, 2013 when the industry is just, on a crazy upward trajectory, and beer is just this exciting place to be. And, being around those people during those kind of journeys is just such a unique experience. So, hearing those stories has been so cool.
And we were all friends. We were all friends. I was a rep at those early days, and Scotty, is a rep still with you guys, and so we'd get together every Wednesday, share stories. Don't go to this bar, go to this bar. Hey, I'm going to pitch IPA. Why don't you pitch your lager? And so that's where the stories are come from. Now, after you compile them all, what are you going to do with all those stories?
We haven't thought that far ahead, but I got
to put them into some sort of a book or something.
I think
it'd be pretty cool to read. Yeah,
I think we do, because there's so many of them that are just so good. Like the stories are just, and we're trying to keep them not too long, because some people say, they come and write us an essay about it, and it's like,
Jordan St. John. Okay, I get it.
Jordan St. John actually sent a short one,
because that guy, he doesn't know when to stop. But.
Yeah, no, he did a great job. We got some really cool ones, and I think it's like I said, a brand is the story of the people around it. And there's going to be some cool ones coming down the line over the next few months. And I think it's a cool way to approach an anniversary milestone like this. It was, when we started thinking about what are we going to do to celebrate, an anniversary milestone like this is somewhat inward looking. It's the customers out there who are drinking Upside or drinking Hellas, they might care, but they also might not. They might just be like, I love this brewery, they make great beer, and that's all they need to know, right? Some of the time. So it is sort of like, it is kind of an inward looking thing. So we want to do something that was for us and for the industry and for the people who were there, So
we did a documentary, a full length documentary to
I remember that
to capture our 30th anniversary. And it's because it's legacy building. It's you're putting the story out there. So, knock on wood, nothing's going to happen to Wellington, but in like 50 years from now, craft beer is still going to be here. People are going to have ideas and inspired to brew small batch beers, and there's going to be an industry for it. But if something was ever to happen, they can go back and look at what Wellington did 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Here are the stories. These are the people they touched. This is the things they did in their community. And by cataloging it all, it offers a very good glimpse into the past of what this industry is and was all about. So
yeah, it's hard when you're in the moment to think about that, like you're kind of everything's rushing by you and you're trying to say like, okay, well, this is important.
But man, you're a marketer. That's what you get paid for. Market it today and bank it tomorrow.
There you go.
So you mentioned a bit of the stories, and there's more coming and some good colorful ones coming. I've known a lot of people that have walked through Wellington over the year, worked there. Some very colorful characters, 40 years of faces, stories, personalities. What makes a Wellington staff member, past and present?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think you, to work in this industry in general, you really have to be willing to like embrace the chaos that it's going to be. No matter how organized your brewery is, no matter on the outside, there's always going to be that like bit of, you almost need to sort of thrive in that chaos and be the type of person who, can kind of, crack a beer at the end of the shift and kind of leave that behind you in a way, but also appreciate it for what it is. I think about like, Marvin at our brewery was our brewmaster for most of the time that I was there. He left, a few years ago to start his own brewery or take over his own brewery. But the people like him who I think really honestly, legitimately did thrive in absolute chaos. And I think that it really speaks to, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing to some degree, but I do think that that's a characteristic of somebody working in this industry, is like, I don't think a lot of people do it because the money, it's not, there's not this big thing in the industry. It's really just like, you got to love it and you got to, be there for the people, I think, You
have to have an appetite. You have to have a thirst for a pint.
Yeah.
You have to have a thirst for it. But walk me through some of the people that have been there and some of the staff that have been there over the years. Just, you don't have to name names, but some of the things that people have done.
There've been some things. That's for sure. Yeah. Are we talking forklift fails here? Are we talking
no, just like the kind of people that have built Wellington.
Yeah. I mean, there've been a lot of people who really came, especially like were able to kind of straddle between different parts of the business. So people who were great in the brew house, but were also able to like be a public facing person, talk to the brand. And I think that's really important because people want to talk to the brewer all the time. I'm sure, you got Mike's been at your brewery forever. Yep. Having that connection to like different parts of the business, I think has been really important. But yeah, over the years, there've been so many crazy stories. Like it's just, because I think sometimes it feels like, especially when you're growing so quickly, everything's kind of just duct taped together. And I mean, I've never been on the production side other than my very brief stint on the bottling line. But when we rebuilt our brewery in 2015 and we had a 12 or 13,000 square feet, it was a whole new, everything new. Basically, our whole brew house got replaced, our whole packaging line, everything top to bottom. And the chaos of going from 24 hours a day on a 40 hex system, we actually moved the brew house while we were on a 24 hour and into a temporary location, moving a brew house that had been in place for, 20 years or whatever it was, 25 years. It was chaos. Yeah. But it was what we had to do to keep the lights on. And I think there's a lot of that where it's just like, you have to be that type of like a little bit crazy to kind of just embrace it and say, well, this is what we need to do to get by this next step.
You've given me the title of this podcast episode is 40 Years of Chaos. I think that's fitting. Looking back, you've been with the brewery for half of its existence. What goes through your mind when you ponder that in your noggin?
Well, I think that makes me feel very, very old. But yeah, no, it's looking back at I didn't expect ever. There was never a point at which I started working at Wellington and I said, I'm going to be here for my entire life, or I'm going to be here for a decade or two. I don't think anybody ever really thinks that way. And like I said, there was this challenge of like, there was always something on the horizon that kept me inspired, and something that I was like, okay, we're building towards this next step and this next thing. So looking back at it, it is pretty crazy. Now just hearing it that way is like, okay, you've been here for half of the journey of this brery, because I always thought about Wellington's legacy as like this,
not just the journey, your life.
Yeah, my life. Your life
has been half of the Wellington's journey. Like
I do have that experience where I say to somebody, well, I've been here 19 years, and they look at me and they're like, they're trying to do the math. Are you old enough to have been here for 20 years, like 19 years? But yeah, it's been a crazy journey, honestly. And it does feel like a totally different brewery from when I started to where it is now. I mean, the physical brewery itself, we're still in the same location, but it's been rebuilt.
You got rid of that black tank that was sitting there.
Yeah. Oh my God. About the HLT is a legend in the industry. It was for anybody listening, it was our old HLT tank, we had Guelph very hard water, and it had just grown inside of like sediment, not and just like hard water sediment, nothing that was, but it was
I remember you looking at that going, don't do tours with that thing around here.
It was something.
We had one when I joined Great Lakes. We had one in 2012 that didn't last too much longer. It was a horizontal black, and it was like, it's time for that sucker to go.
Well, I will say, the one thing I was appreciative about going to Great Lakes was I was like, this feels like home. This feels like Wellington in a way, because it's like this, there's been open that long.
And there's a third brewery that I always say this. It's Beyond the Pale in Ottawa. You walk in past their brew house and you're like, oh, there's a jet ski up there. Oh, that's a Great Lake. This is a Great Lakes brewery. Okay, Guelph Beer. Just to pivot over here to Guelph Beer. Tell me about this awesome thing that you lead. It's what's it all about and who is involved?
Yeah, so Guelph Beer is every single brewery that's in Guelph, large or small, everybody's involved. I actually didn't found it, but I kind of take a leader role in kind of organizing it. But we started in 2017, 2018. And so it was everybody from, we have Sleeman, Fixed Gear, Royal City, Brothers, and Wrinkly Bear and us. So it's all 6 breweries in Guelph. We started with 4 and we keep adding people to the fold.
As they come.
But, it's really about, we have this, we have national organizations, we have provincial organizations, but there's something about the small scale in Guelph, and we have a really special thing in the city, I think, in the beer culture. Escarpment Labs are based in Guelph as well. BSG is located in Guelph, so there's this really strong.
And you're stretching it. It's Fergus.
It's close enough. Cancraft, they're all there, anyways. But yeah, it's all connected, and I think that something that we can all work together. And we never really started with any clear objective. It was mostly just like, let's meet once a month, talk about things. Where can we help each other? How can we work together to promote beer? And to some degree, there's some lobbying efforts locally where we can go to council and say, hey, look at how many jobs you represent. Can you guys help support us in this way? But having some type of voice to speak together and work together to just basically market Guelph as a place that you want to go for beer. Because realistically, when it comes down to it, every single there's so many cities of Guelph's size that probably have 5 or 6 breweries. It's not that rare. But what is rare about Guelph is the breadth and depth of the breweries and the differences in what they're doing.
You have an international. You have the oldest in Ontario.
Yep.
Then you have brew pubs. Yep. Then you have production, co-packers. So you have a little bit of everything.
Exactly. And that's I think that's part of the strength of it is that the sizes are they're not a detriment. They're actually an advantage to this. And it's all interconnected. There's people who are at those other breweries who got their start at Sleeman or got their start somewhere else. So it all kind of ties together in a way.
Well, it's a Guelph in a nutshell.
Yeah, sure is. Sure is.
So 2017-18, that's the same period, I guess, that the East Toronto Collective got started. The South Etobicoke Brewers got started, but you guys are still going. The other two, the previous ones I just mentioned, aren't. So what are your big projects and why do you keep doing it?
I mean, it's tough to keep something like this together. I mean, a bunch of brewers.
Everyone gets busy, right?
Yeah, people get busy. Brewers are not the most organized people in the industry. It can be challenging, right? And there's differing, especially with our different sizes. That is the one thing that is sometimes very hard. And I think maybe because we acknowledge that at the outfront, that we're not the same businesses, that we're all very different breweries. That's actually helped us kind of evolve and push it forward and keep the momentum on it. So I think for us, the big thing was the Guelph Beer Bus got off the ground, and that's been basically a runaway success for us. Like,
so what is it?
Yeah, so it's a multi-brewery, bus that runs once a month from April until November, sometimes December. But basically, it's Guelph Transit buses running throughout the city, and it's a special route that runs right along to the buses. You don't have to get a ticket. You don't have to plan ahead. You just get on the bus, and there's a bus that comes to your brewery every 20 or 30 minutes. So right now we're up to running 5 breweries at a time, or 5 buses at a time to 6 breweries. So it's quite the operation. Like we estimate, like we don't have solid counts because there's no, but we usually get like 500 to 700 people through the brewery in a day, like a pretty significant, and this is average. Like we're getting real numbers through. And because people, I think they're coming to town for it, the local people are engaging with it, but people are sort of like, they love the model of just like, I don't have to plan ahead. I can wake up, I can be, out for brunch and be like, you know what, just jump on the beer bus. Yeah. You can just go to 2 breweries. You can go to, I always tell people, don't try to do 6. Yeah. You're an animal if you try to do 6. You can do it, but you got to start at noon. Do
they allow you to drink on the bus too? Or
no, it's the one thing about the beer bus. It's a beer bus, but you can't have beer on the bus.
Okay. But they'll take you to a place that can get you.
But it's been, I think that helped unite us in a way, because it was something that was happening where we were all there together physically too. Like we're going in, so when it started, we were monitoring our own buses. I was going on the bus and being like, hey, what's up? You tell people about the brewery and you kind of do the thing. I still do it from time to time, but everybody was doing it. Brewery owners, managers, people.
Good education, right? For people getting on there and get, hey, here's Brad talking about Wellington. We're going to stop there next.
Exactly. And we don't, everybody has something good to say about each other's breweries, because there is something good to say about every brewery,
Except I think, Cam at Royal City.
Look at this. If he's listening.
I love Cam very much. So why do you guys keep doing it? Like you have, like Sleeman has been involved in this, a behemoth, and for those of us in the industry, we understand why, but for someone sitting at home listening to this that's a big fan of Wellington, they're like, why the hell are you guys working with Sleeman, and why do you keep doing the Guelph stuff? What would be your answer?
I mean, I think the beer bus is the number one. I will tell you the number of times I say, "Oh, I work at Wellington Brewery," and they just yell "beer bus" at me.
So it's caught on. It's a thing.
It's the first time that I knew that it had gone fully kind of viral in its own respects was when we were starting it back up. And I remember I was walking through the park, and there were like some older women playing tennis in the park, and they were like, "Are you going on the beer bus?" And I was like, "If we're reaching people who are just anywhere in the city at any time, it's just this thing that's broken through the craft beer world into another level of just general awareness." So people will come and they're like, we're a new brewery to them, which is wild to me, but I'm also just like, this is great. This is what we want. That's gold in terms of marketing and reaching people, is saying, well, I've heard of Brothers, let's say, but I don't know anything about Wellington. And I'm like, this is incredible. So those kind of things. How long have
you guys been here?
Yeah, exactly. But working with Sleeman has been fantastic. They've been, we took some flack for it for sure. I think as people had asked in the industry, like, why are you doing that? Why would you work with them? Because there's always been that divide between people saying, the independent craft beer and sort of larger breweries. There's a sort of a dividing line there. I think it's about recognizing that your interests aren't always going to align as a business at all times, and that's okay. That's actually a good thing. I would say that there's a lot more difference in some of the craft breweries in our group than there are between some of than Sleeman and the rest of the group, because Sleeman at their scale is operating a retail store with a small tap room, and that's the business that they're serving with this beer bus. So it is sort of this interesting thing where I think there's a lot of difference in brewers. And the other part of this is if we're lobbying the government, talking to our council about beer and the industry and how many people we employ. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sleeman probably employs more people in Guelph than all of our breweries combined. So I think it's an honest thing. If we want to talk about jobs and economic growth, we kind of have to include them in that conversation. And they started very positive.
And they started off small too, right? Or smallish.
Yeah.
So they're not like the Molsons and the Labatts who started small and 150, 200 years ago.
Exactly.
So they have a good connection, a good, they've weaved themselves through, like we said, the DNA or the fabric of Guelph as well, too.
Absolutely.
So, now, we have a couple more before we get into rapid fire. We're pushing some time here, but this has been a great conversation. Let's talk about beer tomorrow. You and Brent Davies, follow the industry very closely. What do you think the next year looks like for Ontario Craft?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think it's going to be a challenging year ahead. It has been a challenging year in the past. I think the MFA phase out right now in the transition we're in.
Master Framework Agreement?
Yeah, the change, I think we were talking right before this interview, but the changes that will happen to on-premise and the bars and restaurants is going to be a challenge. I think that the continued expansion of grocery and C-store is posing a challenge to brewers. I think people saw that as an opportunity, but it's not an easy fight. And the big guys were out in front on that in a way that, we kind of got blindsided.
I was going to say, we're not, it's not a secret in this industry that they knew change was coming. They knew when it was coming. They could get out ahead of it in time.
Exactly.
So the next milestone is 50 years or year 50. So,
wow.
Yeah. So yes, we get it. You'll still be a little, anyway, 50 years for Wellington and in 10 years. Crystal ball time. What do the next 10 look like for the brewery?
Well, I hope we can really just continue to grow in a way that maintains the integrity of what we've been doing. Honestly, it's hard to look into the future right now, but I think that there's a strong thing with breweries. The industry is crowded with a lot of breweries. There's a lot of challenges, a lot of competition, but I think that breweries that are doing things the right way, the integrity, the care about their product, the kind of like start to finish, like brand values, that stuff's going to speak. And I think really like sustain the breweries that are really in that place. But it's definitely like, it's hard to look in the future, it's really hard to know what's going to happen.
Well, come on, you should know this. You've been there for 19 and a half years. You've seen the ebb and flow of the industry. And,
okay, so big craft beer boom. That's how I say. So next year, giant craft beer boom, craft beer volumes triple.
Okay,
Let's go.
All right. Crystal ball. Let's hope that pans out. Okay, we're going to be right back after a word from Roland Baguettes. Hang tight.
Well, how's your doodle? Roland Baggett here, rolling solo down here at Sunnyside Beach. I likes to get here nice and early to grabs me some prime sandy real estate. I lays out me towel, slather myself liberally with tannin butter, and soak in some tasty vitamin D. Speaking of tasty, looky in me cooler box. A whole gaggle of Sunnyside Session IPA. Big on the taste, low on the alcohol. A springtime, summertime, anytime treat, and a permanent staple in the grips of me fingers. Oh, and check out the can to see a brand new me. Been lifting some iron to boost me biceps, triceps, and me deltoids. You know what they say, sun's out, guns out. Work your tan and crack a can of Sunnyside Session IPA.
Yeah, Roland's a little sad, guys, because we've packaged the last of Sunnyside for the year. The draft has gone out. Bars have got it. So if you're listening right now, try to get some before it's gone for the year. But good news is we're going to be coming out with Fighting Weight, which is like Octopus Light, 3.6%. It's going to the LCBO. It's going to be around for about 6 months. So when Sunnyside's gone, Octopus Light or Fighting Weight is back. And when that's done, you get Sunnyside back. So that's a new thing from Great Lakes. You heard it here first. Okay, Brad, ready for some rapid fire questions?
Sure am.
That was a good interview. I really liked all your answers. But now the feet are to the fire here. You have to answer.
Pressure's on.
Fast. Pressure's on. What beer, other than Wellington or Great Lakes, have you been enjoying recently?
Sparrow Brewing, Pilsner. In Hespler.
In Hespler, okay.
Very small brewery, very great beer.
Okay. Name one brewery that's consistently impressed you.
I'd say Fairweather. Really impressed with what they do across the board, honestly. All their beers are fantastic.
Name your celebrity doppelganger.
This is a really tough one because I've never been asked that before. 10 years ago, I was told I look like John Mayer, but I don't think that's true.
John Mayer. Okay, yeah.
That's the only one that I've ever been told.
You have to grow
Nobody's
your hair a little
ever said
longer.
anything.
I compare myself to John Mayer.
It's the only one that I've ever been told.
No, it's okay. I say Brad Pitt for me with no hair. Name a person or brewery in the industry that has or continues to inspire you.
That's a tough one too. I love what Willowball they're doing, honestly. Destination brewery. It's a great little thing on the farm there. They make some great products.
Now, no disrespect to Charles McLean. I thought you were going to go with someone like that. Someone like, and Charles, we got to get Charles on this.
That would be great. You should get him on.
Yes.
You would do it.
I want to get him on and just be like, Charles, I'm just talk.
Yeah.
Just talk.
He's got some stories.
Yes,
that's for sure.
And he likes to talk. Best time and place for a beer?
After a bike ride or halfway through a bike ride for sure.
Bicycle?
Yeah. Well, cycling, you know.
Okay.
Bike out to a brewery, have a beer, bike back.
Favorite brewery you've ever toured?
Jester King outside of Austin, Texas, probably.
Very
Wild, crazy farm brewery.
Yeah. If you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I'm going to go with Hellas. Gotta. Wellington Hellas. That's honest.
Best place to grab a beer in Guelph?
It's got to be Woolley or Baker Street.
Okay.
It's got to be.
Oh, yeah, you're straddling.
You got to be both. But you know what it is? It's Woolley for a pint and some wings, and then Baker Street for another beer after.
Okay. All right. So this is rapid fire, but tell me about the legacy of Woolley and the Welly.
Well, I mean, they've had us on tap since they first opened.
Yeah.
It's a wild, they've had cask on since they opened. They've been our closest partners in terms of a pub, and just awesome to work with. I mean, they work with you guys pretty extensively.
One of the best pubs in all of Ontario.
They do it right.
Yeah.
Their tap lineup's always solid, and they just great food, great location, just a Guelph institution.
What wings do you get at the Woolley?
Oh yeah, it's salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper,
but with hot and honey garlic on the side.
Okay, all right.
Not mixed. They always say, "Do you want to mix together?" I'm like, "What are you doing? Am I an animal?"
I just actually don't get sauce. I just do the salt and pepper.
I dip them. It's good.
That's very good. Have you purchased beer from a convenience store yet?
I have.
And?
Yeah, I mean, it's beer.
Was it fresh?
Yeah, it was, but it was, what was it? It was a can of steam whistle, and it was when it first started. I wanted the novelty of it. So, but yeah, it was fresh because it was just opened.
Yeah.
So
there you go. What's one secret about Wellington Brewery that you've never shared with anyone?
Ooh, there's a lot of those, but I'm going to say some former employees will know this one. The hatch up to the roof with the sunset up there. That's the secret, the brewery secret.
Do you ever drink beer up on the roof?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But don't tell anybody who's listening on that one. It's,
no,
HR did not hear that.
Kelly, if you could have a beer with just one person in the whole world, dead or alive, famous or not, who would you choose?
I'm going to say Werner Herzog.
And why?
I mean, he is an absolute legend, but also he is, I'm reading his autobiography right now. And I mean, he's just a character, honestly. He seems like he'd have some good yarns to weave for sure, Good
yarns to weave. Last question on the rapid fire, best hangover cure.
Definitely bike ride, cycling. You got to get the exercise. That's the way.
Not a tricycle.
No, definitely not. I mean, it would work in a pinch. I think that's it. You got to get some hydration in you and get out.
Oh, I'm going to throw one more. Have you ever done a bike ride with Lackey?
No, I haven't yet. I thought about it. I should have sent him a message.
You should.
He's probably too fast.
He's probably too fast. He's pretty fast. Brad, I love this. This has been great. Thank you so much for making the trek from Guelph, which a lot of people don't do to get down to Toronto. But you came to the big city to chat with me about your beer career, the history of Wellington Brewery, the beers, and what's to come from one of Canada's oldest independent craft breweries. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate our chats all the time and look forward to many more in the years to come. So thank you again for coming by.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
And that's it. That's all, folks. Episode 43 with Brad McInerney, Marketing Director with Wellington Brewery, has moved from the mash tuns to the fermenters. If you enjoyed our conversation or any other episodes, please leave a review or a comment wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode was fueled by cans of Brewed For You Fest Pale Ale. You can find it at our brewery and at our brew pub. You can also visit us at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in Etobicoke or grab some delicious eats and fresh pours at our brew pub at 11 Lower Jarvis Street in Toronto. You can also find the beer at greatlakesbeershop.ca for free local home delivery. If you have any content you'd love to hear us discuss on the show, guest ideas, or just want to tell us what you're drinking, drop us a line at podcast@greatlakesbeer.com. Until next time, please remember to keep tipping your glass of fresh GLB in the right direction. Supporting local never tasted so good. And go over to Wellington to visit their 40th anniversary bash.
To learn more about what's happening at Great Lakes Brewery, visit greatlakesbeer.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter or follow Great Lakes Beer on your favorite social media platforms.